Welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson. In this show, Chris and his guests will share their knowledge and experience on how to go from zero to successful entrepreneur. They have built their businesses from scratch and are now ready to give back to those who are just starting. Let's get ready to learn, grow, and elevate our businesses. And now, your host, Chris Anderson.
All right, welcome back to another recording of the Elevate Media Podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host. And today, you might be new to the channel, to the show, to me. You might not know who I am or what I'm doing this podcast or this business for. So I wanted to share a little bit of backstory, my story. Who is Chris Anderson? Where did he come from? What is Elevate Media if you don't know? And just share a little bit about this journey that I've been on since 2019. And just give you a little insight on who this guy is you're listening to. So a little bit about me. Grew up in Indiana, born and raised, small town, blessed with a great family, amazing parents, amazing siblings. Truly, kind of, you think of that family that white picket fence, of course, not perfect. No one's perfect, but normal and blessed. We weren't poor. Dad worked hard to provide for us, and mom stayed at home, took care of us. And so, had a really good upbringing. Nothing traumatic or crazy, directly related to, our family. So that's kind of where I grew up and, played sports and loved being outside and playing around. And so my story kind of really starts in school. In middle school, that's an awkward age anyways for a lot of people. And, I grew pretty quick. So I was a tall, lanky kid, 6 foot, probably 90 pounds in middle school. The end of middle school, finally, I think, broke 100. And that's kind of where I was. Just tall, just lanky, gangly, didn't know how to control myself type kid. And, through that, and what I'm about to tell you isn't for, you to feel sorry for me or you to take pity on me or anything like that. Because, again, I had a great upbringing, and I know people have been through a lot worse things and had to go through a lot worse things as a kid. And so I'm just sharing to kind of just get a backstory. Because I think all of our stories matter, and I think everyone's story plays a part into where we are and who we are as a person right now. And, so in middle school, going into high school, really dealt with a lot of, self-worth issues and just self-esteem, lack of it, lack of confidence in myself, because I compared myself to, all these big, tough guys you see in movies or on TV, and that's who the girls liked, and I was a nice little, tall, skinny kid, and so just really dealt with a lot of that growing up, and, let that really eat away in my mindset and my heart, and didn't see my worth, didn't see, the purpose to be around. And so really dealt with that depression and those dark thoughts, and thankfully never took any action on the suicidal thoughts or anything I had, but they were there and they were just constant, and just feeling lost and not knowing really where I belonged, even though I was friends in multiple groups. It was a small school, so played sports, was in drama, was in choir, was in the academic groups, and, small town, so we knew almost everybody. But I still just felt out of place and didn't know where I belonged. And that transitioned into college, and even more so because, now I don't have sports. Now I don't have drama. Now I don't have choir. I have my athletic training class and group and my roommates, and that's about it. And even then, my roommates at the time, I didn't know because it was a new setting. And so I was thrown into this even more confusion of who is Chris Anderson? Who am I? Why am I even here? Why does it even matter that I'm here? I didn't see a reason for it. I didn't see a purpose for it. And so, I walked that path for a year or two in college of just darkness, loneliness, just wanting something more out of life and not really understanding what it was going to be. I did athletic training because I wanted to help people make a difference in their lives. And I thought I could do that, in a physical way through, injuries or rehabilitation and things of that nature, but also conversations I'd be able to have with these student athletes to maybe be a positive light in their darkness and just, shine in those moments and direct them how the best I can and just plant those seeds. And so that was my mindset with it. But my mindset was so off and so negative and so terrible in my own life that I just started to shut people out. I didn't want to make new friends. I didn't want to talk to my roommates. I didn't want to do anything with anyone else. And I just kept going downhill in this spiral. Just kind of pulling away and just kind of getting stuff done, but not wanting to be a part of anything. And I went to Indiana Wesleyan Private Christian School, and, faith is a big part of my journey. And, growing up, went to church, and always believed, that Jesus came and died for our sins, that we could, spend eternity in heaven with God, and he was the only way to heaven. And, I still believe that today, but I still felt lost during this time. And I feel like even though I was baptized and had that connection that, he was just quiet. And it was more that I was just too loud in my own mind. And I never really kind of just sat to listen. But it was in college that in our athletic training program, we took these mission trips to Macon, Georgia, down south. And we went to this children's home called Hepzibah. Not even sure if it's around or if it's changed name or what now, but we went down there. We would do like manual labor. We would paint walls. We would help clean up the facilities. We would do what we could to make it better. And we'd also be able to hang out with the kids and the staff and, play games and do skits and sing songs and worship with them and give them, attention that these little kids, they've been pulled from their families because their parents are teenagers and they're on drugs or they got arrested or they can't deal with them. And so these kids had nowhere to go. And this home helped foster a place for these kids. But these kids went with so much trauma and so much hurt that sometimes they wouldn't even speak to people. They wouldn't even interact with people. And we would come and we would see some of these kids kind of break down some walls and open up and be kids again and be able to see them have joy playing these games and dancing around and being goofy and then hearing from the staff like that kid never talks, but he opened up to you and he spoke and or that one would never do anything but sit in the corner and now she's out here dancing around, playing, laughing. And we never thought that would be. And so being able to be in those moments really started changing my perspective on things. I could have had it so much worse. And there's so much more out there than what I'm doing right now. So how can I make a difference? So that really started playing in my mind, but it also gave me an opportunity to really hear what God was trying to tell me. It put me in situations where I had to be silent and where I had to be still and I had to listen to him and listen for him. And it was these moments that he really started breaking down that cast around my heart that really made me not see my life as worthless or as worthy. It broke down that cast that, caused me to see myself as worthless. And he really started to open me up and changed my mindset with things. And I opened up to the group that I wouldn't usually do. I wasn't a very outgoing person as far as emotions go, and things of that nature. I always had it together. I always seemed good and things were going good from the exterior, from people seeing me. And so that changed me in that regard too, as being more transparent and being open. And it was just it was a game-changing moment in my life because I was either going to continue down the path of this dark path of just not seeing life as worth it to who knows what, or it could change. And that's the path I took. And from those moments, I still accredit those mission trips and just hearing God being a huge part in my, what I'm doing now. And so after those mission trips, I really started wanting to see things different, change my heart, see life differently. And another big shift when I was in college was getting help from a psychiatrist. And we had some on campus that you could go to for free that would help you to, do their thing. And so I was walking towards their office one day, and you have to cross through the mezzanine, kind of the student center where everyone sits outside the cafeteria and just hangs out. So you're walking through the crowded area there, and you have to go up these stairs to the door to the office. And so I'm doing that. I'm walking through, I'm starting to sweat a little bit because I just feel embarrassed that I'm walking up there already. That's just, the mindset I had. And so I got to the door and I reached for the door handle and, just starting to sweat more. And I was like, no, this will be too hard. It's going to be embarrassing. Like, I don't want to talk about my emotions. I don't want to talk about my pain, my past, anything. It doesn't matter. There's so many more people out there that are hurting, that have worse things than I do. I don't need to do this. This would be too hard. So I turned back around without going in, started down the stairs, got halfway through the student center, and I heard this voice saying, hey, if this is too hard, if you think this is too hard, maybe that's what you should do. It was just a soft voice. If you think this is too hard, maybe this is what you should do. And I stopped in the middle of the student center, felt like everyone was staring at me. That was this guy just walking and just stop in the middle of the, because there's a stage you have to cross as well, a little platform. What's he doing? No one probably even noticed, but that just is what my thought process went through. And, I heard that voice and I said, well, you're right. If this is hard, going through this will make me better. This is a hard thing to do, then maybe it's what I should do. So I turned back around, walked up the stairs, opened the door, and signed up for a time and, went through that process. Had many sessions breaking down past traumas and hurts that I didn't realize were things that I was dealing with still. And it was great for the moment. It really set me on that path of like, this is okay to seek help, to talk about emotions, to talk about past traumas, to talk about where we've come from. This is okay. This is healing. And it was such an impactful moment because now, like, I'm such an advocate for get help, talk about those past traumas, work through that healing. And there's so many resources out there, so many people out there willing to help, that if you're struggling in this area, there's, the suicide hotline, there's psychiatrists, and there are people out there that can help walk you through your mental health and helping healing that. So seek those. Don't give up. Don't give in to all the lies that are being told about you and your life. Just seek help, because there's those. I care about you. If you need help, reach out to me and I'll connect you with what needs to be, where you need to be connected with. But it's such a game changer, and it changed my life because going from college into my career, I was helping people, but then I really started getting into personal development. And, Lewis Howes, a school of greatness. Lewis, probably not listening to this, but if you hear this, or maybe I connect with you one day, really leaned into him and his podcast and how he presented it, and, the people he had on the show, and just really started being awakened to, how much more healing I needed to do and how I could do it. And then also that there's so much more out there. There's so much more room to grow and be able to share my story and make a difference and help so many more people. And so I really started to dive into that. And, 2018, 2019 rolled around, and we, my family, my wife and I, we lost our remaining grandparents, 4 grandparents in the span of a year. Some unexpectedly, some we figured would happen. We just didn't know when. And it was just rough. It was just a lot of loss in a small time frame. And with that too, in my corporate job, I had run out of, towards the end of the year with some of these funerals, I had run out of run out of vacation time, bereavement time. And they wouldn't let me take sick days to go to these funerals, to be with family. They said no. Said you don't have any time left. So the only way you can take off is time off without pay. And as a young couple, we have bills. I had student loans from Indiana Wesleyan. Like, she's a teacher. Well, at the time, she wasn't even working, I don't think, yet. It's like, well, we kind of need every bit that we can get. And so that kind of just stirred the fire in me. Like, these people dictate my time and how much it's worth, and I don't like that. And so I started really thinking and brainstorming and like, how can I go about this where I build something that can help support my family, but also build something that outlives me, that can reach so many more people than I can in this job, that doesn't limit my income or dictate my time. I can control that myself. And this is all stuff I learned by getting into podcasts and listening. And so that really got the balls rolling in my mind. Like, what can I do? And, went to some personal development, listened to the late Bob Proctor, and, just kept hearing this voice in my head, like, you got to quit your job. Trust me, just quit your job, start your business. And again, at this time, fast forward, I had started my podcast in 2019. Pencil Leadership's originally what it was called. And I was just, learning from these business owners, these successful entrepreneurs. And come, the beginning of 2020, it just, this fire inside me more and more, just, hey, trust me, quit your job, just trust me. And so I got quiet. I prayed and I said, if this is your will, let me know. Let my wife be on board, because she won't be any other way unless it's you. And she got on board and she said, I think you're supposed to quit your job and I'm with you. And so I gave the job I worked for, I gave them, 2 weeks notice. They asked for 4. So I said, yeah, I'll give you 4 weeks notice. 2 weeks into that last 4 weeks, pandemic hit hard in Indiana and I got furloughed for the last 2 weeks. So it was only 2 weeks anyways. And that was it. I had burned the boats. And I was on a whole new journey of, starting a business. We had some savings, but, losing my income with student loans and rent and everything. And it was a huge jump. And so for time's sakes and not to keep boring you, we're going to dive into that journey of building this business, Elevate Media Group, and what that looked like and what we went through to build that. And maybe you can relate to some of the ups and downs we've had along the way so far. Maybe you're in some right now and it can encourage you. So tune in next week for part 2 of my journey with Elevate. And so if you're going right now and you're in the midst of a mental struggle again, that's kind of my journey, overcoming that and getting through it. And some days it rears its head again, but you have to go back and remind yourself that you're worthy to be known, and you have a purpose in a place and potential to make a difference, and that your story matters, and that there are people and resources out there to help. And so seek those, reach out if you need help. Let's get you in front of the right people, the right resources, so you can start healing as well. But I appreciate you listening. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully something stood out to you that you're like, oh my goodness, yeah, like I need to do that, or okay, I need to take that step. Or maybe someone who's going through something like this. You can share this episode and maybe we can help them together. But next week, we'll do part 2, talking about the ups and downs of growing Elevate from 0 to 6-figure agency. I look forward to sharing that with you. But until next time, continue to go out, elevate your life, elevate your brand. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Media Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. See you in the next episode.